A place that feels just right, no matter what the weather is doing. Enjoy.
In the single digits again tomorrow. Now it's 6. How long the
we get more information about that. So let's get right to Nero.
So, goodbye. Good. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Bells Falls Union High School on Tuesday, January 7th at 6 p.m. I'd like to go around and do introductions. June, we'll start with you.
June Streeter, representing Westminster.
Mary Howard Fader representing Grafton.
David Clark for Westminster.
Priscilla Lambert representing Rockingham.
Kim Keith for Rockingham.
Chris Hodgson, Rockingham. Andy Haas, Superintendent.
Kelly Ryan, Principal.
Paul Boski, Rockingham.
And Rob Welts, representing Rockingham. Next up, we have adjustments to the agenda. Any adjustments? I have one.
The special meeting, you really not.
Well, I'd like to add December 9th minutes that have been passed out on Friday. So we will review and approve board minutes for December 4th, December 9th, and December 26th.
Will we have to ratify December 9th at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Where are those on the agenda, please?
5.
Item 5.
Any other adjustments to the agenda? Okay, seeing no other adjustments, we'll go to number 4, communication and public comments. Anyone here? Anyone online? No? All right. So we'll go to number 5, review and approve board minutes of December 4th, December 9th, and December 26th. Can I have a motion?
Make motion, we approve board minutes of December 4th, December 9th, and December 26th.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Question, was the Wednesday meeting, was that a special school board meeting?
Which,
It's not
which
The
meeting?
December 4th one, because it's not labeled that way, but it's a Wednesday, so I'm wondering, thinking it must have been.
Yeah, that was the one where we talked about supervisory union budget.
So I think that
So-
should be marked special school board meeting,
It's just, yeah, you can make,
just adding the word.
they're board minutes, so it can be special or regular.
Yeah,
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Going to number 6, old new business for discussion action. Letter A, River Charities donation, action needed. Kelly, if I can turn that over to you.
Sure. So we received a very thoughtful donation in the amount of $4,000 in specific support to our athletics program. So with the support of the board, I would like to accept that gift on behalf of Connor Bean and in support of our athletics program.
Are River Charities local?
Yes.
You need a motion? I make the motion to accept River Charities donation of 4,000 to the athletics program, and thank you.
Discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you to River Charities donation for that. Next up, we have letter B, review and approval of FY 26 budget, anticipated action. So I'm gonna turn this over to Paul Bohosky, who's our budget chair, to go over sort of the percentages and where we are as we move forward for a vote.
The proposed expense side of the budget is now proposed at $8,536,884. It's an increase of $595,388 from last year's budget of $7,941,496, or a 7.5% increase. Major changes in the budget. Teacher salaries are down about $183,500, or 2.13%. Administrative salaries are up $91,300, or a 1.1% increase. Health insurance is up $262,848, or about a 3% increase. SU assessment is up $179,800, which is a 2.1% increase. And principal on the bond for the roof and interest on the bond is up about $153,000, or a 1.8% increase. There is a surplus in FY 24. Bellows Falls Union High School has a surplus of $287,742. Supervisory Union, WNESU, has a surplus, or the high school share of the surplus would be $150,782, which would be a total surplus of $438,524. If we use half of the surplus to reduce the overall new money bottom line, and take the $595,388 increase and reduce that by half of the surplus, which is $219,262, we would have an increase of new money of $376,126, or 4.74% increase.
So I guess we need a motion. On
So at
the
this
floor.
time, I'd make a motion to approve the Bellows Falls Union High School budget of $8,536,884, an increase of $595,388, or a 7.5% increase, and use one half of the Bellows Falls Union High School and Supervisory Union surplus of $219,262, and place an additional $219,262 in a tax relief fund.
I think you have to do that in two separate motions. I think you have to approve the budget and then do the.
It make it, and Paul, I think it'd make it cleaner when we go to break out the articles and everything. If we just got motions that are separate.
The taxpayers have to approve the surplus where it goes.
All right, so there is a motion on the floor for the proposed budget of $8,536. $8,536,884 for an increase of $595,388. So we have a motion on that. Any discussion? David?
Discussion on the motion, please, Mr. Chair. I obviously will be opposing this motion, and I'm going to explain why. This budget represents the kind of irresponsible thinking that has gotten this state into the ghastly mess with regard to property taxes that it finds itself in now. It is the collapse of critical thinking skills that takes nothing into account beyond me. It is a insider's special interest budget. We have been gaming the Byzantine formula of the statewide property tax for far too long. Most ludicrous part of this myopic thinking is that it turns a blind eye to the fact that only a quarter to a third state ed fund actually comes from the property tax. The rest comes from sales and use, rooms and meals, the property transfer tax, as well as my favorite regressive tax, the state lottery. The legislature decreed last year that budget increases over 5%, that stayed under 10%, would be exempt from additional property tax. They sent school boards on a fool's errand. Those additional revenues simply had to come from somewhere else. And we all thought that somewhere else was every other school district in Vermont. It was a beggar thy neighbor concept. It is a deep irony that last year's BFUHS budget held the line against that grossly irresponsible thinking. Not so this year. So go ahead, spend down the prior year surpluses and raid the capital reserve fund in an attempt to buy down the tax rate, hoping no one will notice. And let's hope like heck that the $10 million earmark the budget chair asked our local reps for to cover PCB remediation will magically appear. It won't, because it is nothing more than an exercise in magical thinking. Out of here, town meeting, but it will be more than interesting to find out if the voters finally realize the emperor has no clothes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, David. Any other discussion? Jim?
I just think it's important that everybody knows that it's a 7.5% increase over last year's budget.
That's correct.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Yeah,
So,
I am concerned that we're going 7.5, and going more than 5%. I've listened to all of the budget meetings and been there, and, I've listened to where we can cut. And, you know, and looked at it and listened to some suggestions that my colleague, colleague over here, Chris, suggested, and that sounded really, really good, and might even get it lower or get it down in that 4 to 5% category. I was surprised that there weren't more tonight when we came in at 7.5. I think I do understand, you know, some of the concepts here and the fact that, you know, we want the best for our students. So here we sit at this table trying to make that decision. You know, the best for our students, while being fiscally responsible to our taxpayers. And that's a big job. And that's very difficult to do. I do appreciate the work that the budget committee has done. I am glad that it's down from what it was last time we met, down to 7.5. I'm still feeling a little apprehensive as to how the taxpayers are going to see this. Yeah, the surplus, they also have to vote though, whether they want to use that surplus towards it or not. So that's an issue
thank you, Priscilla.
as well.
Thank you, Priscilla. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to speak to the budget as a member of the Budget Committee. I appreciate Paul's succinct but detailed summary of some of the significant numbers here. If I just crunch them in a slightly different way, but still the same numbers, when he points out a number of the increases, like the health insurance increase, the allocation, the SU assessment increase, the principal and interest increase, if we just add all of those together, we come up with more than the total increase to the budget. And I'm pointing that out as things that were beyond the control of the Budget Committee. And as a Budget Committee, and with that as a starting point for the significant increases, we came down. So that total increase is really more in the range of 600,000, and again, or more than that. And that's more than the total increase. So what we had control over and what Kelly and Andy have control over helped to offset some increases that were beyond our control. And this budget includes some very real and significant staff cuts that I'm comfortable with, in that we are still going to be able to provide a quality program to our students. But in sharing both of those points, I want to reinforce for folks that a budgeting process is always a compromise. And if there's compromise that's involved, compromise could easily be described as nobody gets what they want. And everyone can express strong concerns about one end of it or the other. But I think the compromise that we've reached here, coupled with what I consider a reasonable use of taxpayer dollars we already have access to, that is surplus money, to help minimize the impact of this budgetary increase, is a prudent approach to take. And while one might describe it as raiding the surplus, we are still going to have very reasonable amounts of money available down the road to do either cost offsetting in future budgets or to cover important facilities costs. So that's the long version of nobody's happy with a 7.5% increase. But when we think about the revenue that offsets it, I can be comfortable supporting this budget. And I hope that other board members can be as well.
Thank you, Chris. Any other discussion?
Can the public chime in?
We had the opportunity during public comments.
At our meetings, we always allow public comment on an issue.
What's the pleasure of the board?
There were a lot of public comments at the budget meeting, which covered the budget, but that's up to board members.
This member supports the chair's ruling, whatever it may be.
I do as well.
Yeah.
Are you looking to me?
No, we're looking to Ralph to make the ruling.
Oh.
David, Chris just suggested.
Oh,
I would like to keep it right to this board. We've had an opportunity for public comments. All right, so any other discussion from board members? Okay, so having the motion, all those in favor of the motion of $8,536,844, an increase of $595,388, with a budget increase of 7.5%. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
There any abstentions?
Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion carries and passes 7-1. So do we want to do the second part?
Yes.
Second motion?
We already passed the budget.
in terms of surplus.
Oh,
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we would offer an article to use half of the Bells Falls Union High School and WNESU surplus of $219,262 to reduce this budget and place the additional $219,262 in a tax relief fund.
Number 219-262.
That's correct.
That's the motion, discussion, June?
I am reluctant to vote yes for that. I would be more apt to vote for using 150,000 only because of the PCB issue that we have no idea, which I agree with David. The money from the state is probably not going to come to fruition. Also, we have the fire alarm system that we have to do and any other emergency type things. I think we need a little bit more than 219. So I would be more inclined to do 150.
If I could, I'd like to, so the capital reserve fund is actually right now at $1,390,000. It was 1.5 million with money taken out to do the tennis courts, the trees, the bathrooms, and buying a new tractor, which equaled about $110,000. So we still have in a capital reserve fund for capital projects, $1,390,000.
And there's nothing that keeps us from using that for any unanticipated PCB issues.
That is correct.
Okay, so we can use that for anything.
Capital projects is my understanding because the taxpayers voted special articles to put these funds away for capital projects.
Okay, and you're proposing to put the other half of the surplus, the 219.
Into a tax relief fund. And the reason for the language for that is if next year the board came with a budget that was only $100,000 increase over this year's budget, and we didn't need $219,000 of surplus to bring it to a zero increase. So by going to a tax relief fund, you can basically use that money whenever it's needed.
Okay, so do you know if the $1,390,000? Yeah, I said.
You're doing fine.
Do you know if that includes the $347,000 that we did from last year's?
Yes, it does.
I believe it
That
does.
includes that,
Yes.
okay,
So that is to date.
okay.
Yep.
And therefore, when you step back and look at some of the major projects, if it's the full fire panel and again, I've heard numbers from 400 to 600. You have it more than covered with this. If it's to take half of this to start your track, there are funds there.
Okay.
If the state of Vermont does not fund PCBs, then to me, I think it's a difficult thing for them to demand that we do PCBs if they're not funding it.
Can I ask a quick question on that point? And maybe Rob, as board chair, maybe you have this information, and again, I want to acknowledge I've been on the board less than a year, but I have been at meetings and only a few of them where there has been specific conversation and opportunities to query individuals from state government about the funding of PCBs. And my recollection is every time they have said that it will be fully funded. And so my question is, have we ever gotten information that has called that into question?
So,
So,
yeah, so I think that's a great question. To date, we have been, and Andy and Kelly jump in on this. To date, we've been 100% reimbursed on anything that has dealt with PCBs in this building.
Okay,
To date.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's probably not a ton of money left
okay,
in the fund.
Yeah.
We will be either later on this month or early February, meeting with those agencies.
Yep.
To have a conversation regarding an ECA.
okay.
Which, Kelly, can you help me? Because I know people don't like acronyms, but I think. But I think, so the question, and
And I haven't
This-
been at every meeting, so I'm just wondering.
this board last year had Larry Slayson as a PCB attorney.
Yeah.
I have met with Larry.
Yeah.
Just to start conversations in terms of what this board needs to be looking out for. And Larry will be coming to a future meeting for those discussions to answer questions. Because I think we're in uncharted territory.
Sure.
I don't think there's a lot of money left.
Okay,
And having an attorney be with us during these next stages, I think is very important for this board.
Okay.
So June,
A few months ago, there was 13.5 million left in the fund
Yep,
to
yep.
fund all of the PCB issues for all the schools that have. So I'm not sure what it is now, but I'm
Okay.
sure that's been depleted significantly.
sure.
David?
Yes, I speak through the chair to my distinguished colleague from Rockingham. When we have had the Department of Environmental Conservation in this room discussing remediations, I have repeatedly asked the question, can we have that in writing? And I want you to understand clearly and unequivocally, as of this point in time, DEC has guaranteed nothing to us in writing in terms of future support for PCB remediation. That is why it has been my continuing advice to suck it up and realize we're going to get hung with it. So I think it is a huge mistake to draw down surpluses when we simply do not know what our ultimate exposure is for remediation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I would just comment on that. To date, to reiterate, to date, the agencies have reimbursed the school at 100%.
And they have put nothing in writing, Robin, and with all due respect, you know that just as well as I do. And I will say it one more time. Until such time as it is guaranteed in writing, my advice to this board is don't count on it, because it ain't gonna happen.
Were those previous payments guaranteed in writing beforehand?
Yes,
Yes, they were.
Okay.
so
Yeah.
ran up,
Oh, yeah.
when the consultants come with a proposal, which is what an ECA is on how to clean up or what to do, or when we're doing it, what we call an ECA, which is an interim action plan, they submit that to DEC and the AOE. DEC approves that in writing, sends it back to us, which guarantees us the reimbursement. So as of right now, we haven't gotten a final plan on the rest of the building. So therefore, we have nothing in writing on the rest of the building because we don't know.
There's no plan for
There's no
them to
plan
fund.
for them to do that
That
yet.
makes sense.
So we are hopeful to get that plan soon, but we don't know when it is. And there may or may not be dollars. I mean,
And that's the ECA thing?
Sure.
Okay.
so-
Priscilla,
Yeah, Kim and I see the reimbursement charges on there every time when we do the warrants. So we have seen that and like Andy says, that, you know, everything that was submitted and guaranteed, they are paying. So we know that. But like David says, you're right, we aren't guaranteed. So as, you know, for Andy to push as hard as he can and Kim, Kelly, so that we can maybe get that hopefully in writing as soon as possible, because I think the state is good, has good intentions, but doesn't, like David said, always come across
Good intentions,
with,
no money.
with, you know, results. So I think the sooner we can get that done, the better off we are.
But again, to date, they have executed.
They
So
have
now it's
actually
now it's the
paid
next phase that we need to be
Yes.
looking at.
Yes,
And so I do think having Larry Slason be involved in those conversations can only assist this board and, moving forward. And we're hoping that we'll be meeting with the DEC, VHB group, hopefully by the end of this month or the first meeting of February.
Thanks for clarifying.
Absolutely. So, any other discussion on the motion of the surplus? Paul, can you read that again for everyone?
Sure, my motion would be to, formulate an article that half of the Bellows Falls Union High School WNESU surplus of $219,262 be used to, reduce the overall increase of this budget, and an additional $219,262 be placed in a tax relief fund.
One more.
Jim,
Me, Andy, is that 150, is that minus what we owe? The surplus that we have, is that minus what we owe the SU back for an overpayment?
Those are all the good numbers from
Those
last
are
meeting
good numbers, okay, okay,
that Andy gave us.
okay.
David?
Zach, we get clarification, please. I believe I heard during budget discussions that we were gonna raid the capital reserve fund for an additional $50,000 to buy down the tax rate. Did I hear that correctly?
You did not hear that correctly.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh,
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. So the motion passes 6-1 with one abstention. And then moving on to letter C, board training. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to do board training. So moved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Here we are now in executive session.
It's gonna take me a few minutes, and we're gonna have to move, but I'm gonna have to turn a lot of things off.
Go to the fishbowl.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then we're gonna have to come back here, right?
Yes.